These rules have helped me from leveling up my mixes to going full-time as a pro engineer. And it sounds crazy to say they changed my life, but without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I know these rules will help other people as well. First rule is to understand the why. Why do we do certain things? When you're starting out and you're learning audio and music production and mixing, you want to know what to do and how to do it. So that's what you're fed. That's the information that you consume. But when you become a professional, you need to be able to explore why do we do things in certain ways. I find reading is really good, okay? Basic disc mastering, okay? This is a compendium of all industry documents relating to the science of vinyl. And it has all the patents for different vinyl technologies in here. And what I've got here are all earmarked aspects of the medium of vinyl and how it pertains to the production process and my role as a mastering engineer and how I can cater to that. That is understanding the why, and then putting these things into practice and doing tests and proving yourself wrong. And this allows you to explore your tools on a much deeper level. So that's number one. Be an engineer, understand the why, stop following the what and the how that you learned when you were just starting out. The next rule I follow is to never reinvent the wheel. This is like 99% of engineers that complain their clients have demo-itis are literally just engineers who are trying to reinvent the wheel for their client and undermine their creative process. So don't do that. You will stub yourself in the foot. People won't enjoy working with you and they won't come back. Your goal is to be a conduit for their vision and carrying it through. Rule number 3 is don't use sub buses for mixing. So don't have a drum bus, don't have a vocal bus, don't have a bass bus. And I know this sounds totalitarian in a sense, but there's a reason. There's a very technical reason for this. So we all know about summing or summing mixes, or your mix bus is the sum of all your individual channels summed together. Now, if you have individual mix buses, they are summing all the drums, all the vocals, etc., and then they resum into your mix bus. Now, if you change the phase, the EQ, the compression, the volume of any of those individual mix buses, it actually changes the phase relationship of, let's say, the vocals to the guitars. Because let's say those have frequencies that are overlapping in the summing process going to the mix bus. As you shift the phase of, let's say, the vocals with an EQ on that vocal bus, it is going to shift the harmonic structure of what is phasing positive and negative between those signals and feeding the mix bus. The issue it was causing for me running through sub buses is that I'd EQ the vocals and then the guitar would sound different. What? No. And then I'd EQ the guitar bus and then the bass bus would sound different. Or I'd EQ the drums and then the 808 would sound different in the bass. And I'd be like, well, why am I chasing my tail? Even when I move levels, the phase would change. Oh, not the phase, but the sum difference would change so much that the harmonics and the feel of the mix would change. The alternative to that, and this is my mixing template I have here, is to mix with VCA faders. So the VCA faders are just group control faders for all your vocals, all your kick, all your snare, all your drums, but there's no processing on them themselves. The processing, let's say for the group, is in a parallel channel. So if I want to process all my drums, it goes through a parallel bus, which I can manipulate independently of the drums themselves. And this is important because I can actually manipulate how much of that signal is getting moved in to the summing process for my mix bus, and thus I keep the integrity of the tone of my original channels in check and it doesn't warp things. I'm not chasing my tail over and over. Rule number 4 is to over-deliver. Now, about 3-4 years into my career, I thought that I needed to charge for every deliverable. If they wanted a radio edit, if they wanted stems, etc., I would charge them overages. And it made sense. Extra time, extra money. When clients come to you for mixing, they come for you to mix their intellectual property, their asset, which is their music, their likeness, and their ability to make money off that music is in the ability to send it out to publishers with the bus stems, to send it out to publishers with the no lead vocal version, the instrumental, the stings, whatever they require, the radio edit. Now, it wasn't until I was speaking with Austin Hull where he goes, Nick, I deliver everything with my mixes. At least this is the way I recall the conversation. And I was just blown away. I was like, really? Why? And he goes, because it's part of my work. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. And then I started to think about it. I'm like, well, why can't it be part of my work? Why do I need to charge for it? I'm charging enough as a mixing engineer where I'm making good. I shouldn't have to punish them for wanting assets which pertain to their IP. This is standard. Most pro mixers I know, when they're delivering mixes, at least for mastering for me, they send all of this. They send the radio, the instrumental, the TV, as standard. So rule number 4, over deliver, not just with the output, like the deliverables you give them, but also with the mixing service itself. And this goes back to another professional, Craig Bauer, where he often cites that he's not there to mix for speed, and he's not there to mix for X amount of revisions and boast about it. He's there to mix until it's done. And I know so many other mixing engineers who are at the top of their game that work like this. They don't count revisions like, oh, I'm up to number 10, not number 11, or they don't count like how long the record's taken. Oh, it's taken 3 months to finish. They just focus on getting to the end game. And again, I did a whole year doing unlimited revisions, and I'm continuing that into the next year and the year after, because the reality is it's not about how quick you can get something done or how efficient you are or punishing your clients for doing extra work. It's about getting to the end goal. Rule number 5, nothing is off limits. When I started mixing, I learned mixing was channel faders, panning, EQ, compression, reverb, delay. But that I sort of took so literally into my mixing career that I didn't know how to tune vocals. I didn't know how to edit vocals. I didn't do sample replacement. I wouldn't make suggestions on the production, on how to embellish what was there. I used to limit my mindset by saying this is mixing, and if it doesn't fit into this lane, I'm not willing to do it. I'll give you an example. Here's the mix for you. Here's the mix for you. This is the mix for you by Issa on Pick Last. And the 808, when it came in, didn't have any sub to it. And he was here in the studio with me, and I'm like, dude, I know you want this to mix and be fat, but this 808 doesn't have a low fundamental. We need a low fundamental in it, and we need to redesign it. And this isn't about reinventing the wheel. This is about exploring the goal for the client. And he's like, okay, cool. So he pulled out his laptop and he's like, oh, how does like 50 hertz sound? And I'm like, cool. And take a listen to this now. This mix sounds awesome, but without that low fundamental, this mix wouldn't be the same.
Too crazy, so crazy. I don't know what to say. And she came through with the map of bottom wrist. Yeah, she came through looking like a bad bitch. Yeah. Lately I've been rocking on the west.
So now if something doesn't sound right or something can be embellished or something can be made better, I will just do it. Obviously, I won't step on the creative toes of my artists and the producers I work with unless I consult with them. This one is a hard pill to swallow, and that is the client is always right. I know. You might not feel that way. There are egos involved, but ultimately, you are the conduit for their creative vision. Because sometimes you're going to send out mixes that are going to be shot down and ripped in half, but if you focus on appreciating them for their feedback, you are going to learn very quick. And this is something I do at the end of every day. Okay, it's not just for mixing or mastering, but it's also for my business, for my own personal growth, for my own development, is I journal. And I treat my journal like a post-game review. Like after a football game, the coaches, the team will be in there reviewing the plays. Same with my day as an engineer and as a studio owner. At the end of the day, I'll write everything down I did. I'll go, oh, I did this well. This was good. This was horrible. This was stupid. I can improve this way. And this all like loops back down to the client's always right, because they're your feedback loop. Your client, even on my YouTube channel, the people who comment on the videos are my feedback loop to understand, what am I doing well? What can I improve better? How can I knock this out of the park the next time? And actually with that, I'm going to say, leave a comment in the section below about what you enjoying about the channel and what you think I could improve on, because I'm trying to make these videos for you guys to help. Like literally, it's my way of compartmentalizing everything I'm doing at the studio and experiencing and learning, documenting, journaling it, but also with the aim of seeing other engineers and community get built through that. So yeah, leave a comment in the section below. Now, if that doesn't make you comment, this next rule will make some people comment, and that is louder is better. When it comes to labels, when it comes to top tier producers, you need to be able to produce loud masters and mixes. And that doesn't mean slamming the shit through things. That means you have to have a high pedigree in your work to be able to manipulate your mixes, manipulate the productions, manipulate your masters, so they present tastefully when they're played loud. Engineers who don't know how to make loud records sound good, because they don't put the time and effort into understanding the game. The game is make great records. Great records require, and loud records that sound great generally have excellent balance, generally have excellent dynamic control, generally have excellent stereo field. You should be excelling at those things regardless of whether it ends up loud or not. You should have great balance in your mixes. You should have great dynamic control and stereo width in them. So don't use it as a cop-out, need dynamics. No, learn your craft. Have better balance in your mix. Have better dynamics. Have better stereo field. Have better harmonics and tone and feel to your mixes. And the natural byproduct of that is, guess what? Louder masters. So louder is better. Genuinely, a shit mix will never be loud. A really good mix, yep, you can have it loud and it'll sound beautiful. So there you have it. Rule number 8, never say no. By this, I mean, don't throw in your towel. So many engineers feel like every project has to be the perfect project. All the stems are going to come in perfectly. All the mixes are going to come in perfectly. And it's just going to be off to the races. You're going to use your gear. You're going to use your techniques that you've been practicing and learning and create this masterpiece. But that isn't a reality for every single project. You probably heard me say it in the middle of videos where I'm trying to figure something out and I go, I'm going to do this just because I can. Regardless of whether it's right or wrong or it's accepted, I just do it because it sounds good and I can. And that helps me sometimes just bypass this sort of wall of wanting to say no to do something, but figuring it out and getting to the other side. Now, this next rule, everybody's going to love, everybody's going to feel, because it is a bop test. I get absolutely trolled in the comments on the YouTube based on my air drumming or my head bopping or what I'm doing. And that is because genuinely, when it comes to the records I work on, I love them. I really love the music I get to work on. If I can't feel where that beat's coming in or that vocal melody is moving to or the rhythm is pumping, especially for an electronic track, I haven't done my job yet. If the music can't move me, I can't expect it to move my clients. I can't expect it to move listeners. So that's a really important rule. Before you let something leave the studio, feel it out. Sometimes, you know what that means? That means me stopping mixing here, jumping in the car, going for a drive, cranking it, looking like a crazy man down the street, but figuring out what I'm enjoying about the music. And by figuring out, it's the beat, or it's the vocal, or I'm not hearing enough of this, or I'm hearing too much of this, I'm able to come back to the studio and be like, man, that 808, I'm cranking the hell out of because it is so fat and juicy and I like that. Okay, so you got it. Rule number 9, if you can't bop to the mix or the master, you haven't done your job yet. And number 10, the final one, is break all the rules. Okay, that sounds cliche for a rule, a list of rules, but break the rules. These rules don't break. These rules I'm pretty stubborn on, but in terms of everything else you hear in audio or mixing or mastering or how to do things, break those rules. Tear them apart and figure out, because how do I put this? Unless you break a whole bunch of plates, that's not really a good analogy. Just break shit. Run fast, run hard, break a lot of stuff, fail, learn, progress. Okay? Being mollycoddled into your little lane of just doing the things that you know because it's safe isn't going to help you as an engineer. Go break some shit. All right? And until next time, take care.